Okay, we're live.
All right, call this meeting to order. Caleb, could I have a roll call, please?
Yes. Kavanaugh.
Here.
Johnson.
Here.
Ruby is absent. Ping.
Here.
And Fisher.
I am here. We'll move on to the approval of the minutes. I presume we've all had a chance to look at the minutes from May 8th. We have a motion for that.
So, no second.
Moved by Kavanaugh, second by Johnson. All in favor of approving minutes? Aye. None opposed. Now we're into visitor and public comment. If anyone would like to make some comments to us about something that is not on tonight's agenda. We have a zone change coming up. If you want to talk about that, you'll have an opportunity in a few minutes. But if you want to talk to us about anything that is not on the agenda, now is your chance. And I'm seeing none. So we will move into our public hearing on this zone change. We have a zone change request from the existing C1 light industrial to CB2 general commercial. Eric Mulcahy, shall I turn it over to you for a presentation?
Yep. As you stated, this is a zone change request that's coming to the Planning Commission, and then your board will make a recommendation to the City Council. The property is located at 2155 9th Street West, and most people know it as the Lazy Day Mobile Home Park. This property is currently split zone, so the southern half is zone CB2, which is our general business zone, and then the north half is light industrial. So and it's been this way for at least the 30 years that I've been involved with planning. So I don't know why it was split zone, but it is. The existing manufactured home park is a legal non-conforming use under those requirements. However, there was a Senate bill that was passed in 2023 that Senate Bill 245 that allows residential and multifamily in any commercial zone. So when we update our zoning code, that'll be placed in there, but we recognize that that change in the legislature anyway. So the new owners, though, currently are in the process of converting that to a different use. They haven't specified what use is going to go in there, other than it's probably going to be more commercial. And so they are requesting the zone change on the north half, the light industrial, to the CB2 zone. So the whole property will now be one consistent zoning classification. And this is one of the recommendations in our zoning ordinances, which we discourage or try to avoid split zones because it complicates the land use development of the site. So it's actually doing something that the zoning ordinance would encourage. The adjacent zonings are to the north is light industrial, to the south is CB2, both current, and then where we have Super One and AutoZone are also zoned CB2. The assisted living facility to the east is zone CRA1, which is our multifamily zone. And to the west, those properties also have kind of a split zone with the CB2 and the I1. Those are county. So this property is in the city limits. It's actually our easternmost city limits or westernmost city limits boundary. Our growth policy, which guides our zoning, designates the whole property as commercial, and that's shown in figure 3 of your staff report. So the growth policy supports the CB2 zone for this particular parcel. Then we review this zone change through the 12 criteria that are outlined in our zoning ordinance. Does it comply with the growth policy? It does. Is it going to lessen congestion and secure safety? Essentially, we're going from a light industrial zone to a business zone. Both are fairly intensive zoning classifications, so there's really no impact local services or impacts to our streets or general welfare. It is at the intersection of Meadow Lake Boulevard and Highway 2. I did speak with the Montana Department of Transportation in writing this report. Basically, when that property converts, there most likely will be a change in entrance. The MDOT will encourage Meadow Lake Boulevard as their probably primary access, and then there might be the opportunity for left in, left out, or right in, right out at that current highway approach. But definitely the transportation situation will change on that property as it moves ahead, and they will be required to go through the systems impacts of the MDOT to determine what those approaches would be. And if it goes to systems impact, they'll require a traffic impact study based on the actual use that's being proposed. So there is basically an avenue to address that potential congestion with any change in use of that particular property. Otherwise, the zone change complies with the criteria, and this is the only criteria that we can look at when we review a zone change. I know that it's a very sensitive issue, converting a manufactured home park that has, attainable housing and doing something different, but that's not what we can review in this application. We pretty much have to stick to our criteria and what our growth policy says, and essentially what that real change is from light industrial to commercial. So with that, I'm recommending that you adopt the findings of fact of this report CZ-25-02 and recommend approval to the city council.
Thank you for that, Eric. Is there a proponent here of this project who would like to speak to us at all? Or I'm seeing none. So, okay, just making sure on that. Do you have any questions of committee for the planner before we move to a public hearing? No. Okay. Well, with that, we will open a public hearing. If you'd like to speak on this matter, please approach the podium, give us your name and your address, and try to limit your comments to about 3 minutes. So with that, the public hearing is now open. And out of courtesy, I'll wait 10 to 15 seconds just to make sure no one changes their mind and wants to come up. All right, seeing no one coming forward, I am closing the public hearing. Committee, any discussion, questions about this?
I don't have any issues with it. It looks pretty cut and dry, but I have trouble making a decision. We don't know what it's going to look like. And I understand procedurally that we can,
Great.
but that's my question. Just my concern. Don't know what it's going to be. But if it changes into commercial, it would still qualify as housing, what you said within the legislation. Is that correct?
So yeah,
Really,
for example, they could do a mixed use
If they
project
want.
if they wanted to.
Okay. Oh, that's my only comment.
Yeah, I think my kind of view is both nice to know, get an idea of what's going on, but understand not being part of that at this point. It's encouraging to think that MPPs with them changing use there that approach. That's from a state. But once again, they're a little more of a strong proponent of having traffic. Other than that, it's the experience.
Yeah, I agree with most of what it said there. I think it makes sense to take care of that split zoning and put it into commercial business. As Mr. Johnson said, I'm always curious to see in my 12 years on council, for this, I saw very few applications came forward that requested zone change without a clear, like, we're going to do this next. But once again, it makes sense. I'm not saying there's anything untoward about that by any means. But it's just, I would normally see they have plans, but that's totally fine. And that's once again, not a reason to deny this by any. Seeing no other discussion. I would entertain a motion to adopt staff report to CZC 2502 as findings of fact.
Also move.
Second. Right, second by Payne. Do we need roll calls for this, or can we do voice votes, Caleb?
We'll do a roll call.
Wonderful.
Why
Would you
not?
give us a roll call, please?
Ping,
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Kavanaugh,
I,
Fisher.
Aye. So we have adopted staff reports as findings of fact. And now we move on to the second item, which would be to recommend the approval of zone change to the city council.
I'll make a motion to approve the zone change.
Motion seconded by Kavanaugh. Let's do another roll call, please, Caleb.
Johnson.
Aye.
Kavanaugh,
I,
Ping,
Aye.
and Fisher.
Aye. All right, that is handled. And that will move on to city council, and the meeting for that will be
July 7th.
July 7th. So if anyone has further thoughts or comments on that, come to a July 7th meeting where the council will look at our recommendation, see what they want to do. We have no other business before us. I have one quick question. With the housing study being done and all the MALUPA, the Montana Land Use Planning Act, do we have any goal in mind? We will be working on that stuff further.
Actually, Eric, the city manager, and I just had a meeting about that before this meeting, and our goal is to get a RFP put together in the next couple of weeks to go out for a land use planning consultant, because this chore is much greater than my capacity to perform. So we'll need the assistance of that planner, and of course, with our new land use plan, the public participation is a primary goal of that. And so the candidate will have to have that'll have to be a strong facet of their organization. So, but yes, that hopefully will be coming soon to work through the land use plan with you. And if the other plans that I've been kind of following, they basically, do a chapter by chapter sort of thing, and kind of work through it methodically. The city did put out an RFP, and it's accepted one, and working on another.
Yeah, so we'll propose to council soon on the contract for the water and sewer PERs, which will help feed that information. So actively working that, but that contract has not been approved by council yet, but we are working with the design engineers for that.
So that's another component of 382. So the city is working towards that resolution.
And it's my understanding some of the other cities around the state are a little bit further along the process than us. It seems like Kalispell's a little bit further ahead. And what not good or bad, but I've just been following what they're doing, kind of looking at some of the surveys they've been putting out and just seeing like, okay, this might be what we're doing in a couple of months. Is that accurate? I should be looking at those.
Yeah, I mean, there's only a handful of consultants in Montana that can tackle this job, and most of them have been helping some of these other cities, so they probably have a really good idea of the process to get that public involvement and work with your commission to put forward a product that can then be presented to the council.
Thank you for the answers on that. Any other questions before we adjourn? Well, with that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move. Second by Michael.
All right, seconded by Ping. All in favor of adjournment? Aye.